What if I told you that everything you believed about building houses on the wild frontier is not true? Are you ready to learn the truth about how one unusual architectural detail saves settlers from the harsh mountain frosts? Many pioneers built their shelters with the sole purpose of providing maximum protection from the piercing northern winds and blizzards. They tried to make their wooden huts completely airtight in order to preserve every bit of precious heat coming from the stone hearth. Because of this, thick darkness constantly reigned inside the thick log walls, and destructive dampness accumulated, spoiling supplies. The harsh winters in the Rocky Mountains lasted for months without a hint of a saving spring thaw. Heavy snowfalls buried the mountain passes with high drifts and completely cut off the lonely mountaineers from the outside world until May. The air temperature rapidly dropped to critical sub-zero levels, turning the water in buckets into solid monolithic ice in a matter of hours. In such harsh conditions, every dry log prepared for kindling, the stove became a resource worth its weight in gold. Any slight mistake in the construction of a wooden hut inevitably led to a catastrophic cooling of the entire living space. Careful calculation of the angle of the sun's rays allowed the mountaineer to heat the spacious room without any additional expenditure of scarce wood. Watch the video to the end, and you will learn how the clever placement of the south-facing window allowed the laws of physics to heat the wooden hut for free all winter long. What I am about to show you is prohibited in 12 countries due to violations of traditional building standards. Traditionally, carpenters in the Wild West placed the front door and narrow window openings exclusively on the leeward eastern side. They were very afraid of the slightest heat loss and tried to minimize any openings in the thick yellow pine walls. This perceptive mountaineer deliberately placed the widest glass frame right on the central south facade of his wooden house. This design solution seemed to his neighbors to be a completely illogical violation of all the basic principles of building reliable winter shelters. In summer, this south facade was constantly exposed to the scorching midday sun. Due to the high position of the sun in the sky, the wide wooden roof canopy completely blocked the blinding light from entering the room. As a result, on the hottest days of July, the hut remained a pleasant, shady refuge for the weary traveler. The massive oak floorboards did not heat up at all and retained the natural coolness coming from the deep stone foundation. This was only the first part of a clever plan that only revealed its full potential with the onset of the December cold. To implement this idea, the builder had to order expensive sheet glass from a distant industrial center. Transporting the fragile cargo on creaky horse-drawn carts across rocky mountain passes took several weeks of arduous travel. The master craftsman carefully made a double wooden frame from dense larch wood to prevent even the slightest drafts. The space between the logs around the new window was tightly caulked with dry forest moss, mixed with sticky river clay. Installing such a large, fragile element into a massive log wall required precision and tremendous carpentry skill. Settlers passing by this hut often stopped to express their utter bewilderment at the huge window. They were absolutely certain that the first serious winter cold snap would force the owner to board up the opening with thick planks. Experienced trappers, accustomed to sleeping in dark, cramped dugouts, considered the abundance of daylight inside the house an unnecessary and dangerous luxury. The Highlander calmly listened to all these numerous critical remarks and continued to methodically prepare his dwelling for the coming winter. He firmly believed in his engineering calculations and understood exactly how his architectural system would work. The large window also provided an excellent panoramic view of the entire southern valley adjacent to the house. This allowed the owner to notice the approach of uninvited guests in advance or to observe changes in the weather over the distant mountain range. In the era of wild frontier exploration, the ability to visually monitor the surroundings gave a significant tactical advantage in the face of unforeseen dangers. The hunter could sit at his wooden table in complete safety and watch the path leading to his doorstep. Thus, the window served not only a climatic but also an important defensive function. All this grandiose preparatory work took the lone builder several long autumn months. He managed to complete the installation of the last frame just a few days before the first heavy snowfall. The hut stood on the mountainside as if ready for a serious test of strength in the face of relentless nature. The huge glass pane glistened brightly in the cold autumn sun, reflecting the bare branches of the surrounding trees. Now all that remained was to wait for the real frost to test the effectiveness of this innovative heating system in practice. With the onset of the first severe frosts, skeptics expected to see a room frozen through with a thick layer of frost on the glass. However, the reality turned out to be completely different and silenced even the most stubborn critics of this bold architectural experiment. Do you agree with this? And would you believe in the success of such a strange construction solution in the harsh winter conditions? Please share your thoughts on this in the comments below the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to regularly receive access to unique historical facts about the conquest of the frontier. What if I showed you a real climate time machine that would transport you to the winter of the 19th century? With the arrival of the harsh winter, the trajectory of the sun across the sky changed dramatically compared to the summer months. The sun rose extremely low above the horizon and described a short, gentle arc on the southern side of the sky. It was this astronomical feature that became the key to the successful operation of the unusual window opening in the log cabin. The wide overhanging eaves of the wooden roof no longer cast a shadow and allowed direct rays of sunlight to shine directly onto the glass. A particularly strong effect was achieved during the winter solstice, when the days were shortest and the nights were longest. During these coldest weeks of the year, the sun was at its lowest point in its annual orbit above the horizon. It was then that the angle of incidence of direct rays became ideal for maximum light penetration through the south window. Solar energy flooded the wooden floor and walls, turning the room into a veritable bath of light. Nature itself came to the aid of man, who was able to correctly understand and use its immutable astronomical laws. The glass acted as a kind of one-way thermal trap for the radiant energy entering the room. Shortwave solar radiation easily passed through the transparent panel and heated all the interior surfaces of the room. The heated wooden furniture and floors began to emit their own long-wave thermal radiation. This secondary heat could no longer escape so easily back into the frosty street through the window glass. A classic greenhouse effect occurred, which allowed a significant amount of energy to be accumulated inside the closed circuit of the walls. Watching the movement of the light spot on the wooden floor was like reading a giant natural clock. In the morning, the first rays touched the western wall, slowly creeping towards the center of the room as the sun rose. By noon, a huge rectangle of light fell exactly in the middle of the room, illuminating the owner's desk as much as possible. Towards evening, the golden spot shifted to the eastern wall, gradually fading and heralding the imminent onset of a frosty night. This daily solar cycle set a clear rhythm of life and filled the hut with a lively, pulsating warmth. Interestingly, even on slightly cloudy days, the system continued to function, albeit with slightly less efficiency. Diffused daylight still penetrated through the large glass area and contributed to the lighting of the room. The mountaineer did not have to strain his eyes when repairing small details of horse harnesses or cleaning gun mechanisms. Visual comfort significantly reduced overall fatigue and helped to conserve physical strength during the harsh winter period. A clear understanding of the trajectory of the heavenly bodies gave man an undeniable advantage in the struggle for comfortable survival. Every sunny day turned into a free session of intensive heating of the entire interior of the spacious hut. Thick logs eagerly absorbed this radiant heat and slowly distributed it throughout the log cabin. Do you think this astronomical knowledge could have saved other mountain settlements from severe hypothermia? In the next chapter, you will learn how massive wooden floors were transformed into a giant invisible furnace. This hidden thermal mass worked completely autonomously and maintained a comfortable temperature until late in the evening. The secret that people pay thousands for lies in the simple physical properties of the wooden floor of a mountain hut. Heated by direct sunlight, the massive oak planks acted as a giant heat accumulator in this engineering system. Wood has an excellent ability to slowly absorb heat energy and release it just as slowly into the environment. Throughout the short winter day, the floors and lower log walls absorb free solar heat, By sunset, these massive structural elements had turned into a huge heated battery under the owner's feet. This passive heating process was completely silent and required no human intervention or control. The air inside the room, coming into contact with the heated floor, gradually became warmer and rose to the high ceiling. Natural convection circulation occurred, evenly distributing a comfortable temperature throughout the spacious room. The temperature difference between the icy street and the warm interior could reach several tens of degrees at noon on a sunny day. The Highlander could comfortably move around his dwelling without heavy outer clothing made of thick animal skins. The northern wall of the hut, made of the thickest and densest cedar trunks, was particularly effective. The sun's rays penetrating through the southern window hit this wooden barrier directly and heated the fibers deeply. As a result, the northern wall, which is usually the coldest place in any house, became a source of heat here. This ingenious heat trap compensated for the inevitable energy losses through the cracks in the wooden roof of the building. Thus, the entire inner perimeter of the hut was actively involved in the process of thermoregulation of the living space. On cloudy days, when the sun was hidden behind thick layered clouds, the heat stored in the wood began to slowly release. The massive floors continued to give off their energy to the cool air, maintaining an acceptable temperature for many hours. This effect of thermal inertia smoothed out sharp temperature fluctuations and made the microclimate inside the hut surprisingly stable. Traditional houses made of thin boards cooled down quickly without a constantly burning fire in a stone hearth. The smart mountain hut, on the other hand, forgave its owner for long absences to check distant hunting traps. The heat emanating from the floor had a beneficial effect on the preservation of food supplies stored in the lower drawers of the sideboard. Bags of flour and dried meat did not freeze through, which greatly facilitated the process of preparing daily meals. The warm floor was also incredibly pleasant for bare feet when waking up on harsh, frosty mornings. The feeling of physical comfort far from civilization gave a powerful boost of energy and confidence in the future. The hunter felt like a true master of the situation, dictating his own engineering rules to nature. Many modern architects are still amazed by the ingenious simplicity of this ancient method of passive climate control. The use of the heat capacity of building materials in combination with the correct spatial orientation is still relevant today. This lone pioneer was a century ahead of his time, creating a truly energy-efficient wooden dwelling. His experience proves that the competent use of the laws of physics can replace complex and expensive technical devices. His knowledge of the thermal mass of wood saved him during the fiercest February blizzards and snowstorms. The constant flow of free energy radically changed the harsh daily life of a lone mountain trapper. He no longer had to spend half the daylight hours exhausting himself cutting and chopping hard wood. He spent the freed-up time repairing his leather equipment and carefully preparing his traps for the new hunting season. Please like this video if you found this detailed information about passive heating useful. Your support helps us find even more forgotten secrets of survival in the Wild West. What you have never seen is hidden in the surprising dryness of this unique log cabin. One of the main problems of all wooden houses on the wild frontier was constant destructive dampness. Moisture evaporating from human breath, boiling kettles, and wet clothes inevitably settled on the cold walls. Condensation accumulated in the dark corners of the hut and became an ideal environment for the rapid growth of black mold. This damp environment not only damaged valuable property, but also caused serious respiratory diseases among the settlers. The large south-facing window in our hero's hut brilliantly coped with this insidious and invisible threat. The intense sunlight that regularly flooded the room acted as a powerful, natural ultraviolet sanitizer. Direct rays mercilessly dried any moisture that fell on the wide floorboards or wooden walls of the building. The circulation of warm, dry air rising from the heated floor effectively ventilated all hidden niches and nooks. As a result, the humidity level inside the house always remained at an optimally low and safe level for health. This dry microclimate was especially important for the proper storage of fur skins and hunting trophies. Moisture could ruin precious fur in a matter of days, turning the fruits of hard labor into useless trash. In a hut with a large window, The skins hung on special stretchers dried evenly and acquired excellent quality. This allowed the mountaineer to get the maximum profit when exchanging furs for factory goods in trading forts in the spring. The dryness of the air was not just a matter of comfort, but also a guarantee of economic well-being for the lone trapper. Metal objects such as knives, axes, and gun barrels also needed protection from insidious rust. In damp, dark dugouts, weapons had to be constantly lubricated with a thick layer of animal fat to prevent corrosion. In the home of our resourceful pioneer, dry air kept tools clean and in perfect order. Mechanisms worked flawlessly, and blades retained their sharpness much longer than usual. This saved the owner from unnecessary routine work and preserved his precious time during the short winter days. Even the drinking water stored in wooden barrels inside the house remained clean and fresh. The dry air prevented the growth of putrefactive bacteria that often spoiled water in damp and stuffy basements. Food cooked over a fire did not sour by evening, which made it possible to prepare large batches of soup for several days. The stability of the household depended entirely on proper control of the invisible water vapor in the air. The window served as the main tool for this control, turning a damp trap into an absolutely dry fortress. Wooden furniture and leather equipment lasted for years without becoming covered in a slippery layer of destructive green mold. The dry microclimate prevented the rotting of valuable fur skins, which were the main source of income for mountain trappers. Do you think it was easy to breathe in such a dry and sun-warmed hut? In the next chapter, you will learn how they managed to preserve this life-saving heat during the long winter nights. Proper preparation for night frost required no less ingenuity than the design of the building itself. With the onset of thick twilight, the main advantage of the south-facing window became its weakest and most vulnerable point. The thin glass, which generously allowed heat energy to enter during the day, became the main source of heat loss at night. The icy mountain air outside rapidly cooled the glass surface, drawing the accumulated heat out of the warm room. If the window were left open all night, the hut would freeze to the ground in a matter of hours. The owner needed to find a way to reliably insulate this transparent breach in the defense of his cozy wooden house. The solution to this complex problem was massive wooden shutters carved from thick cedar boards. Each sash of these heavy structures was several inches thick and had excellent thermal insulation. The shutters were hung on strong, wrought iron hinges on the outside of the facade and closed tightly against each other. To ensure a perfect seal, the edges of the shutters were lined with soft strips of tanned deerskin. When closed, this leather gasket compressed and completely blocked the icy wind from reaching the fragile glass. The procedure of closing the shutters became a mandatory evening ritual for the cautious lone settler. As soon as the last rays of the winter sun disappeared behind the snow-covered horizon, he would step out onto the frosty porch. With one confident movement, he slammed the heavy shutters shut and secured them with a powerful oak bolt from inside the room. This bolt not only pressed the shutters tightly against the frame, but also served as excellent protection against wild predators. After this action, the hut instantly turned into an impregnable and completely dark thermal capsule. Inside the room, thick curtains sewn from several layers of heavy woolen cloth were additionally lowered over the windows. This thick fabric created an additional air layer between the cold glass and the warm room air. The still air trapped between the window and the curtain is one of the best natural insulators in the world. The cold from the glass simply could not penetrate this double protection system into the room, which had been warmed up during the day. The temperature in the room remained at a comfortable level above zero, even when a fierce February blizzard raged outside. The massive stone hearth, which had been resting from its hard work during the day, now came into its own. The owner lit a small but hot fire using pre-prepared dry pine logs without bark. The flames illuminated the shutters closed from the inside and cast bizarre, flickering shadows on the log walls of the house. The heat accumulated in the wooden floors continued to slowly radiate, maintaining a steady temperature below. The combination of these protective measures allowed the mountaineer to sleep through the night without the risk of waking up from the piercing cold. This closed thermal system was incredibly effective and impressive in its thoughtful engineering simplicity. The owner did not depend on huge reserves of firewood, as he only needed to compensate for minimal heat loss at night. Meanwhile, his less resourceful neighbors were forced to get up in the middle of the night to throw wood into the stove. They wasted their precious sleep and physical strength, fighting the cold penetrating through the thin walls. Our hero slept deeply and peacefully, knowing that his smart home was reliably storing the energy accumulated during the day. In the morning, with the first rays of dawn, the ritual was repeated in reverse order, welcoming the new day. The Highlander lifted the heavy wooden bolt, opened the massive shutters, and let the fresh sunlight inside. The curtains parted, revealing a view of the valley sparkling with white snow and distant mountain peaks. The room began to eagerly absorb the radiant energy again, preparing for another cycle of passive heating. This continuous dance with the elements of nature required discipline, but generously rewarded with warmth and unprecedented comfort. The quality of the wood used to make the protective shutters played a critical role in the success of the entire project. Thanks to its porous structure, cedar contains many microscopic air bubbles inside the wood fibers. This makes it an excellent barrier against the cold, surpassing even dense oak or resinous pine in terms of effectiveness. The shutters did not crack from sudden temperature changes and did not deform under the influence of autumn moisture. They served faithfully for many years, protecting the fragile window from the vagaries of the harsh mountain weather. Every morning, the hunter would open the bolt and check the condition of the hinges and leather seals on the wooden shutters. Timely minor repairs prevented the appearance of dangerous gaps that could compromise the integrity of the entire system. Such attention to technical details was a hallmark of all successful conquerors of the Wild West. They understood that in conditions of complete isolation from civilization, there are no trifles, and any breakdown could be fatal. Reliable closed shutters ensured that the sun collected during the day would stay overnight with the owner. I discovered this quite by accident while studying old faded drawings of American mountain huts. Life on the frontier in the depths of winter was a severe test not only for the body, but also for the human psyche. Long months of forced isolation, the monotonous landscape outside the window, and the constant cold often led to deep despondency. Settlers locked in their dark, cramped dugouts suffered from severe sensory deprivation and heavy melancholy. The lack of bright visual stimuli made the endless winter evenings truly unbearable for a lonely person. A large south-facing window solved this subtle psychological problem in the most elegant and simple way. The abundance of natural daylight inside the hut had a powerful therapeutic effect on the hunter's nervous system. The bright rays of the sun stimulated the production of the necessary hormones of joy and maintained a high level of vital energy. The Highlander did not feel buried alive in a wooden box, as was often the case with other trappers. His home was filled with light and air, creating the illusion of space and constant connection with the outside world. Watching the weather change through the clear glass became a kind of entertainment during the long hours of rest. The hunter could safely watch the fierce snowstorm bend the tops of the tall pines outside the window. This spectacle of the raging elements only emphasized the feeling of security and comfort inside the warm, heated room. The contrast between the chaos outside and the order inside provided powerful psychological support for overcoming any difficulties. People felt like conquerors of nature, capable of taming the harsh temper of the wild Rocky Mountains. The bright room allowed for small crafts that distracted the mind from oppressive and disturbing thoughts. Wood carving, the manufacture of complex bone fittings, and the sewing of leather clothing required good lighting. In a dark hut, these activities would have been impossible without constant strain on the eyes in the dim light of a smoky tallow candle. Thanks to the sun, the owner could use his time productively, creating beautiful and useful things for everyday life. The creative process became the best cure for the winter blues and the oppressive feeling of total loneliness. In addition, the transparent window erased the harsh psychological boundary between the cramped interior and the endless external landscape. A person's gaze did not rest on a blank log wall, but could wander over distant snow-covered mountain peaks. This feeling of a wide horizon prevented the development of claustrophobia, which often afflicted winter residents in tiny huts. The space of the hut visually expanded, absorbing the entire surrounding panorama of the frozen, picturesque valley. The architectural solution proved to be a brilliant psychological technique for preserving sanity. Bright sun glints on the massive wooden table reminded them of the imminent arrival of spring and the awakening of nature. This constant visual connection with the outside world helped them keep a cool head during the long months of complete isolation. Could you spend 6 months alone in the snow with such natural window lighting? In the next chapter, you will learn what fatal mistakes our heroes' neighbors made when building their shelters. Ignoring the basic laws of physics cost many inexperienced pioneers enormous effort and the loss of valuable property. While the hut with a south-facing window thrived, other settlers suffered from their own design mistakes. Most inexperienced builders constructed houses by blindly copying designs they had seen on the warmer East Coast. They completely ignored the radical change in climate zone and the peculiarities of harsh mountain aerodynamics. Their main mistake was the desire to make the house symmetrical by placing windows on all 4 walls indiscriminately. This led to enormous heat loss through the poorly insulated north and west window openings in the building. The north-facing windows never received direct sunlight during the harsh mountain winter. They served only as huge black holes through which precious room heat flowed unhindered into the frosty street. Even double frames could not save the situation, as the north wind constantly blew warm air out of microscopic gaps. The residents of such houses were forced to cover these windows with thick blankets, permanently depriving themselves of even diffused daylight. Their homes turned into gloomy, damp caves requiring round-the-clock intensive stove heating. Another common mistake was the roof being too low, without sufficient protective overhang above the facade. In summer, such a building was mercilessly heated by the scorching sun, turning the interior into a hot, stuffy oven. The wood dried out and cracked, forming gaps through which whole drifts of dry snow blew in during the winter. The lack of a long canopy also meant that the slanting autumn rains constantly wet the unprotected wooden walls. The cycle of constant wetting and rapid drying rapidly destroyed the structure of the logs, causing premature rot. Many pioneers underestimated the importance of building a solid foundation and laid the first crowns directly on the bare ground. In the freezing mountain soil, moisture quickly penetrated the lower logs and caused mold to grow. In addition, the cold from the frozen ground was easily transferred to the thin floorboards, making it unbearable to walk without thick shoes. No carpets or animal skins could stop this icy flow rising from the depths of the frozen mountain. An improper foundation negated all efforts to heat the upper part of the log living space. Some builders made the doorways too wide and too high for the convenience of carrying bulky wooden barrels. Every time such a huge door was open in winter, the entire living room was instantly cooled down. Cold, heavy air from the street rushed inside, pushing the light, warm air out through the doorway. Our clever hero, on the other hand, made the front door low and narrow, equipping it with a high threshold to protect against drafts. He had to bend down low to enter, but this inconvenience was more than compensated for by the warmth preserved in the house. Stoves in traditional huts were often installed in the very center of the room for the sake of apparent uniform heating of the entire room. However, the metal stove quickly cooled down after the last log burned out, having no thermal mass. Our mountaineer's stone fireplace was integrated directly into the interior partition, separating the living area from the storage room. This massive stone block accumulated heat from the evening fire and served as a reliable battery until morning. The location of the heat source was no less important than the size and orientation of the only glass window. Neighbors also often neglected to carefully caulk the walls, hoping that the thick logs would retain heat on their own. They used cheap dry grass, which quickly blew away or was pulled out by birds to build their nests. The cold mountain wind easily penetrated these empty gaps, turning the inhabitants' lives into a constant battle against drafts. Our hero used a special mixture of moss and clay that firmly cemented the joints between the logs. His walls were completely airtight, which was a prerequisite for passive solar heating to work properly. Ignoring these basic architectural principles made wintering on the frontier an incredibly difficult and dangerous undertaking. People spent enormous effort on daily firewood harvesting, but still suffered from the piercing night cold. Their homes were dark, damp, and required constant repair due to rapidly rotting, unprotected wooden structures. One of the most exhausting duties of any mountain dweller in winter was the constant gathering of fuel for the stove. In traditional cold huts, firewood burned at an alarming rate, requiring replenishment every few days. Hunters had to spend precious daylight hours cutting frozen trunks waist-deep in deep, sticky snow. This took a huge amount of physical strength that was desperately needed for checking traps and hunting wild animals. Life became an endless, exhausting race for dry wood to maintain a minimum above freezing temperature in the house. In a smart cabin with a large south-facing window, this problem was solved with remarkable engineering elegance and simplicity. Thanks to effective passive solar heating, the need for firewood was reduced by more than 3 times compared to the neighbors. During the day in clear weather, the fireplace was not lit at all, as the radiant energy was sufficient for comfort. The fire was lit only after dark, exclusively for cooking and a little extra heating of the stone hearth. This greatly reduced the daily physical strain on a single person surviving in the extreme conditions of a mountain winter. The Highlander used the time and energy he saved to improve his living conditions and expand his hunting grounds. He could go hunting much further from home without worrying that he would find his hut frozen solid upon his return. The supply of firewood prepared in the fall and neatly stacked under a protective canopy was slowly used up over many months. He did not have to risk his health by cutting wood in heavy snowstorms or in extremely low sub-zero temperatures. Saving both heat and physical energy became the foundation of his peaceful and secure life in the mountains. Less wood burned also meant a significant reduction in the risk of fire inside the cramped wooden room. Every spark that flew out of the fireplace was a deadly threat to the structure made of dry, resinous, coniferous wood. Rare use of open fire reduced the risk of accidental fire to a minimum and made it completely controllable. The owner could sleep peacefully at night without fear of the chimney burning through or a smoldering ember falling on the dry floorboards. The safety of the dwelling depended directly on how competently alternative natural heat sources were used. Interestingly, even the ashes from the rare evening fires were used by the owner with maximum practical benefit. He collected them in wooden barrels and used them in the spring to make durable homemade soap or fertilizer for a small vegetable garden. In conditions of scarcity of any resources, such a thrifty approach to waste was the norm for successful conquerors of the Wild West. Not a single gram of valuable material was wasted and served to improve the overall quality of a complex, autonomous life. The hut functioned as a well-coordinated, waste-free mechanism where each element performed a strictly assigned important function. This system of resource conservation clearly demonstrated the superiority of intelligence over brute physical endurance in the wild. While other settlers were breaking their backs fighting snow and frost, our hero enjoyed warmth and comfort. His smart home did most of the work of survival on its own, using the free power of the sun's rays. This allowed him to preserve his health and strength for more important matters that ensured his long prosperity on the frontier. 19th century energy efficiency proved its absolute viability in the most extreme mountain climate conditions. In addition to low temperatures, the terrible enemy of any mountain hut was the piercing cold wind blowing from the northern passes. The speed of winter air currents in the Rocky Mountains could reach hurricane force, capable of uprooting old trees. This icy stream literally blew the heat out through any tiny cracks in the walls, instantly cooling the interior. For the south window to work well, it needed perfect protection from these harsh natural forces. The building's insulation had to work closely with the passive solar heating system. Particular attention was paid to sealing the joints between the thick logs using natural materials. As already mentioned, the builder used elastic forest moss generously moistened with a thick clay solution for caulking. After drying, this mixture turned into a kind of solid stone that tightly sealed any air passages to the outside. This composition did not crack in severe frosts and did not spill out of the joints, providing reliable protection for many years. The layer of insulation acted as an insurmountable barrier to the wind, trying to penetrate the warm, sun-heated hut. The shape of the roof was also designed with the harsh winter winds prevailing in this mountain valley in mind. The northern slope of the roof was made more gentle and longer, descending almost to the ground behind the building. This unique aerodynamic shield forced cold air currents to flow smoothly around the hut without creating strong pressure on the back wall. The snow swept by the wind onto this slope served as an additional thick layer of natural effective insulation. In this way, nature itself helped to protect the smart house from the piercing breath of the icy mountain north. This complex wind protection system made the hut completely impervious to any external weather conditions. While his neighbors wrapped themselves in blankets at every gust of wind, our hero could calmly enjoy the silence. The excellent sound insulation of the thick cedar walls muffled the howling blizzard, turning it into a light, soothing background noise. The feeling of complete security and physical comfort in the midst of fierce weather was the highest reward for the hard construction work. The wind that brought death to others became only a powerless observer of the comfort of this unique mountain hut. The mountaineer's unconventional architectural solution passed the toughest test of time and the merciless forces of wild nature. Contrary to the gloomy predictions of skeptics, the large south-facing window did not become a weak link in the log building's construction. The sturdy cedar frames and well-designed fastening system withstood extreme temperature fluctuations from summer heat to winter cold. The glass did not crack under the pressure of icy winds and did not cloud from constant exposure to direct mountain sunlight. The hut stood as an indestructible monument to human ingenuity and a deep understanding of the fundamental laws of physics. The durability of this house was due to the fact that all its elements worked in complete harmony with each other. Passive heating protected the logs from destructive dampness, and the airtight walls retained the heat accumulated by the glass. Massive wooden shutters reliably covered the vulnerable facade at night, and the deep overhang of the roof protected it from slanting rain. No detail of this system was accidental. Every board and every stone performed its important function. It was not just a building, but a complex climatic mechanism perfectly tuned to the harsh conditions of the frontier. The story of this unusual wooden hut gradually spread among other settlers and hunters in the Rocky Mountains. The most far-sighted among them began to adopt this successful practice, cutting new windows into the southern facades of their old houses. They saw for themselves the incredible effectiveness of passive solar heating in the long, cold winters. The tradition of building dark, windowless dugouts gradually became a thing of the past, giving way to bright and truly warm wooden dwellings. One bold individual decision forever changed the approach to construction throughout the harsh American West. Today, the principles behind the design of this simple mountain hut are actively studied by students at modern architecture universities. The concept of passive solar design is the basis for the construction of many modern, eco-friendly, and energy-efficient residential buildings. The use of thermal mass, competent orientation to the cardinal points, and protection from prevailing cold winds are more relevant than ever. We are rediscovering the truths that were vital to the lone settlers of the 19th century. Their invaluable practical experience helps us create more harmonious and sustainable architecture in our modern world. It is amazing how simply observing the sun's trajectory can radically change the quality of human life. The mountaineer did not try to defeat the mighty forces of nature with brute force. He preferred to understand its laws and use them to his advantage. His wooden hut with a large window became a symbol of the triumph of reason over the blind, destructive forces of the wild climate. This architectural victory came at the cost of hard work, precise mathematical calculations, and the courage to go against established rules. The result exceeded all expectations, transforming an icy mountain trap into a comfortable and completely safe, warm home. The story of this lone mountain pioneer proves that observation and a sharp, inquisitive mind can overcome even the harshest climatic conditions. The competent use of natural forces proved to be much more effective than blindly following the erroneous building traditions of the cold age of the past. Knowledge of the angles of sunlight and the heat capacity of wood saved more than one life in the snowy expanses of the Wild West. Write in the comments what other forgotten topics about frontier survival technologies you would like to see in future videos. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to receive regular notifications about new historical documentary videos.